The twin suns hung low over the horizon as Ethan walked along the narrow street of the alien city. He was tired after days of travel. Dust clung to his boots, and the air smelled faintly of iron and smoke. This planet was not Earth. It was older, stranger, filled with people who looked almost human, but carried marks of difference in their skin and eyes. Their voices had a musical tone, and their language was like a song with hidden notes. Ethan had come as a simple visitor. His job was not as a soldier or ambassador, but as a traveler, someone who wanted to learn about worlds most humans had never seen. But the city gave him a cold feeling. The tall spires stretched high into the sky, covered with living vines that seemed to move slightly in the wind. The markets were busy, yet the people stared at him with quiet suspicion. Whispers followed him. No one dared to come close. He stopped near a fountain carved from black stone. The water shimmered strangely, bending light in odd ways. He sat there for a moment, wondering if he had made a mistake coming here. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and most species carried old stories about them. Stories that painted humans as reckless, dangerous, or unpredictable. Ethan didn't want trouble. He only wanted to rest. That was when she appeared. A young alien woman stepped out from one of the nearby houses. Her steps were quiet, her eyes bright like deep silver, and her long, dark hair shimmered faintly under the suns. Her skin was pale with a soft hue of blue, not sharp or frightening, but gentle, like water under moonlight. She looked directly at Ethan without fear. "You are human," she said softly, her voice carrying that musical tone but with words clear enough for him to understand. Ethan nodded carefully. "Yes, I'm only passing through. I don't want any trouble." The woman tilted her head and gave a small smile. "No trouble. You look tired. Will you come with me? My home is not far." Ethan hesitated. He had met many who distrusted him, and only a few who dared speak at all. This woman seemed different. There was no fear in her eyes, only curiosity, maybe even kindness. Still, he wondered why she would invite a stranger, especially a human, to her home. "Are you sure?" he asked. "I don't think your people like me very much." She lowered her gaze for a moment, then looked back at him. "They are afraid of what they do not understand. But I am not afraid. Please come." Something in her voice made Ethan trust her. It was gentle but steady, like she had already decided she would protect him from any harm. He rose from the fountain and followed her. The streets grew quieter as they walked away from the crowded market. Narrow alleys stretched between tall buildings, their walls covered with faint glowing lines that looked like symbols but shifted when he stared too long. He felt watched, though he couldn't see anyone following. The woman walked with calm, steps glancing back every so often to make sure he was still behind her. After a short walk, they reached her home. It stood at the edge of the city, half hidden by tall trees with silver leaves. The house was small, built of smooth stone that seemed alive with faint warmth. When she touched the door, it slid open silently, revealing a room lit by soft golden light. "Please," she said, stepping aside. "Come in." Ethan entered carefully. The air inside was warmer than outside, carrying the smell of herbs and something sweet. The walls glowed faintly with soft patterns that pulsed slowly, like breathing. Small objects rested on shelves, strange tools, carved stones, and shining crystals. It was not like any human home, yet it felt alive and welcoming. She closed the decker behind him and gestured toward a seat made of woven fibers. "Sit. You must be tired." Ethan lowered himself onto the seat. It was surprisingly soft. "Thank you," he said. "I didn't expect kindness here. Most of your people keep their distance." The woman sat across from him, her silver eyes never leaving his face. "My people remember the stories. They say humans are wild. They say you bring danger wherever you go. But I don't believe stories until I see the truth with my own eyes." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. He had heard such words before. And, "What do you think now that you see me?" She smiled faintly. "I see someone who looks tired, not dangerous." Her answer made him chuckle softly, though his chest felt heavy. He had been treated like a threat before, even when all he wanted was peace. But here, in this small room, the weight of suspicion felt lighter. She rose and moved toward a small table where a bowl rested, filled with fruit that glowed faintly under the light. She picked one, cut it open, and placed it on a plate before, offering it to him. "Eat. It will give you strength." Ethan hesitated for a moment but accepted. The fruit was soft, sweet, and strangely cool on his tongue. "My name is Leora," she said quietly as she watched him eat. "Ethan," he replied. For a time, silence settled between them. But it was not an uncomfortable silence. It felt like both were weighing the moment, deciding if trust could grow in a place where fear had lived for so long. Ethan studied her carefully. She seemed innocent, gentle, someone who wanted only peace. And yet, he could not ignore the way the walls pulsed with strange symbols, or how the neighbors had watched earlier as if expecting something. He told himself it was nothing. She was kind, and maybe kindness was rare here. But somewhere deep in his chest, a quiet unease began to stir. Ethan leaned back on the woven chair, the taste of the strange fruit still lingering in his mouth. The room's light shifted slowly, almost like the glow was alive, reacting to their voices. Leora sat quietly across from him, her hands folded in her lap, her silver eyes steady. The silence stretched until Ethan decided to break it. "Your home feels different," he said softly, glancing around at the walls. "Are those patterns painted?" Leora shook her head gently. "No. The stone is alive. It remembers the voices of those who live inside. When I speak, it responds. When you speak, it listens." Ethan blinked. "The walls listen?" "Yes," she said simply, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "It is part of who we are. The house is not just a place. It is family. It learns. It protects." The idea unsettled him. He had traveled to many worlds, but he had never seen something like this. Still, he forced a smile. "Then I hope your house doesn't mind me being here." For the first time, Leora laughed. It was a soft laugh, quick but warm, and it filled the room with a strange comfort. "It does not mind. It knows you are my guest." The warmth of her laugh made Ethan relax, though unease still lingered in the back of his mind. He noticed small details, the way her neighbors had stared earlier, the way the house seemed too aware. He pushed the thoughts aside. She looked so gentle, so harmless, and he didn't want to ruin the fragile peace he had found. "Tell me," Leora said, leaning forward slightly, "why do you travel? Many would not dare to wander so far from their home, especially humans." Ethan exhaled, his gaze dropping to the glowing patterns under his boots. "I travel because Earth feels too small for me. I wanted to see the galaxy with my own eyes. People back home always argue about what is dangerous, what is safe, who is friend and who is enemy. I wanted to find out the truth for myself." Leora studied him carefully. "And what truth have you found?" He paused before answering. "That most people are the same. They want safety, food, family. But fear makes them cruel." Her silver eyes softened at his words. She looked down, as if his answer stirred something deep inside her. Before he could ask, the ground beneath them trembled faintly. The walls shivered, their glowing lines flaring brighter for a moment before settling. Ethan stiffened, his instincts sharpened by years of surviving in unknown places. "What was that?" he asked quickly. Leora kept her calm expression, though her fingers tightened against her lap. The city breathes. Sometimes the earth shifts. It is nothing. But Ethan wasn't convinced. He rose and moved toward the nearest wall, pressing, his palm against the cool stone. It pulsed faintly under his touch, almost like a heartbeat. That didn't feel natural, he muttered. Leora stood as well, stepping closer. You hear too much, Ethan. Sometimes it is better not to listen, so deeply. My people often mistake listening for seeing danger where none exists. He looked back at her, his brow furrowed. And you? Do you see danger? She hesitated, then shook her head. No, I see you. That is enough for me. Her answer caught him off guard. He wanted to ask more, but something in her tone warned him not to. After a pause, Leora moved toward a small alcove and pulled out a clay jug filled with clear water. She poured 2 cups and handed one to him. Drink. It will calm your thoughts. Ethan accepted, but did not drink right away. Instead, he studied her closely. She seemed genuine, innocent even, yet the sense of being watched pressed heavier on him now. Not just from the walls, but from outside. Through a narrow window, he thought he saw a shadow move quickly past, though when he looked again, nothing was there. Your neighbors, he said slowly. They were staring at me earlier, like I was expected. Leora's hand paused on her cup. She lowered it gently to the table, then lifted her gaze. They fear what they do not understand. You are the first human they have seen with their own eyes. Ethan frowned. But you're not afraid. Why? She drew in a quiet breath. Because I chose not to believe every story. The elders speak of humans as dangerous, unpredictable. They say you can turn even peace into war. But I see someone who is tired, someone who wanted nothing but to rest at a fountain. Her words carried a strange weight. Ethan wanted to believe her, but the tremor in the ground, the glowing walls, and the neighbor's stares all pulled at his mind. Before he could speak again, the tremor returned, stronger this time. The jug of water rattled and dust fell from the ceiling. The walls glowed brighter, their lines pulsing faster like warning signals. Ethan jumped to his feet. That's not the earth shifting. What's happening? Leora's calm mask cracked for the first time. Fear flickered in her eyes, though she tried to hide it. You should not have come here, she whispered. The city is not safe tonight. Ethan's pulse quickened. What do you mean? She turned toward the door but did not open it. Her hands trembled slightly as she pressed them against the, wall. The glowing lines shifted, forming new patterns like symbols rearranging themselves. Outsiders, she said finally. Raiders. They come from beyond the mountains. They take what they want. Sometimes people, sometimes worse. Ethan stared at her. And you brought me here while knowing this? Leora's eyes met his, steady now. I did not bring you because of them. I brought you because I wanted to see if the stories about humans were true. And maybe, deep inside, I hoped they were. The words struck him like a blade. She had seemed so innocent, so kind, and yet there was another layer he hadn't seen. So this was a test, he said coldly. No, Leora said quickly, stepping closer. Not a test. A hope. I wanted to believe that humans were more than the stories. I wanted to see with my own eyes if you could survive. The tremors outside grew louder, mixed with distant shouts and metallic clashing. Ethan felt the weight of her words pressing on him. She hadn't meant harm, but she had brought him into something bigger than either of them. For the first time since landing on this planet, Ethan understood that his presence was not an accident. He had been noticed, chosen, maybe even expected, and the alien woman who seemed so innocent had secrets that reached deeper than he could have imagined. The sound outside grew louder, a steady rhythm of metal against stone and the faint crack of energy weapons. Ethan felt his chest tighten. He had been in dangerous places before, but here, far from Earth, it was different. He was alone among people who did not trust him, inside a house that pulsed like it was alive, with an alien woman who had invited him under uncertain reasons. Leora stood near the glowing wall, her silver eyes reflecting the shifting symbols. Her hands pressed flat against the stone, as though she were speaking to it without words. The light around her body painted her face in shades of gold and blue. "They are closer," she said softly. "I can hear them in the ground. The raiders march with heavy machines." Ethan moved to the window. In the distance, faint flashes of light burst across the horizon. Smoke rose slowly, carried by the wind. "How often do they come?" "Too often," Leora admitted. "Our city is small. We have little defense. The elders hope they will leave us if we give them enough. But raiders never stop taking." Ethan turned back, his jaw set. "And you think I can stop them?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked closer, her steps silent on the warm stone floor. "I do not know what you can do, but I know what I feel when I look at you. Humans are different. Your kind carries something my people lost long ago. Strength, fire, the will to fight even when the world says you cannot." Ethan shook his head. "I'm not a soldier anymore. I didn't come here to fight. I came here to see the stars, to find peace." Leora's eyes softened. "Perhaps peace must be protected first." Her words stung because he knew she was right. Everywhere he had gone, danger had followed, and each time he had been forced to act. He didn't want it, but he couldn't turn away. A loud crash echoed outside. The ground shook harder now, and distant screams carried through the air. Ethan stepped away from the window. His hands curled into fists without thinking. "If the raiders break through," he asked slowly, "what happens to your people?" Leora looked down. "Many will be taken. Some will be killed. The rest will live in fear until the next time they return." Ethan exhaled, the decision already forming in his chest, though his mind tried to resist it. He could not sit in silence while innocents were dragged away. "Not again." He turned to her sharply. "Do you have weapons?" She blinked at the sudden change in his tone. "We have tools. Nothing more. My people do not build weapons." "Then show me the tools," Ethan said firmly. "I'll find a way." Leora hesitated but finally nodded. She led him into another room, smaller and darker, filled with shelves of strange instruments. Some looked like farming tools, others like sharp crystals shaped for cutting. Ethan scanned the room quickly, picking up what could serve as weapons. A staff with a hardened metal tip, a blade carved from crystal that hummed faintly when he held it. "This will do," he muttered, testing the balance of the staff. Leora watched him with a mixture of fear and awe. "You move like someone who has fought before." Ethan's expression hardened. "I've seen too many battles, and I promised myself I'd never fight again, but promises mean nothing when people are screaming outside." Before Leora could reply, the house shuddered violently. The lights on the walls flared bright red, pulsing in quick beats. She gasped, "They are inside the city walls!" Ethan rushed to the door, staff in hand. "Stay here!" But Leora stepped in front of him, blocking the way. "No, Ethan, you cannot face them alone. If you fall, the stories will win. They will say humans were never strong, only reckless. You must not let them see you broken." Ethan stared at her, breathing hard. "Then what do you suggest? Hide while they tear your people apart?" Her eyes flashed with sudden intensity. "I suggest you fight like a human, not like one of us. Use your mind, your fire. Show them what my people have forgotten." Studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Then stay behind me, and don't call me reckless again." They stepped outside together. The city was chaos. Smoke curled between the tall spires, and the sound of machines filled the air. Huge raider walkers marched through the streets, their heavy feet cracking the stone. Alien raiders in dark armor rushed forward, grabbing anyone they could, dragging them into cages mounted on the walkers. The citizens screamed, scattering in every direction. Some tried to fight with bare hands or farming tools, but they were cut down quickly. Ethan gritted his teeth. "Monsters," he muttered. He moved fast, slipping through the panicked crowd. The first raider didn't see him coming. Ethan swung the staff low, sweeping its legs, then drove the metal tip into the raider's chest. The alien collapsed with a grunt, armor sparking from the blow. Leora gasped softly behind him, not from fear, but from shock. "You fight with no fear," she whispered. "Fear's always there," Ethan replied, yanking the staff free. "You just move anyway." They pushed forward. Ethan used every instinct from his past life, dodging, striking, turning the raiders' size against them. He fought with speed and precision, never wasting a movement. Each time one fell, Leora's faith in him grew, but the raiders were many and more poured into the streets. Ethan knew he couldn't hold them off forever. He needed a plan. He glanced up at the towering walkers. Their legs moved with slow but powerful steps. If he could bring one down, it might block the street and slow the others. "Leora!" he shouted. "Is there a way to make the buildings collapse?" Her eyes widened. "Collapse? Why would you—" "Trust me!" Ethan cut her off. She looked at the glowing walls around them, then nodded quickly. "The stones listen. If I speak, they will obey, but it will not hold forever." "I don't need forever," Ethan growled. "Just enough." Together, they rushed toward one of the tallest spires near the street where a walker lumbered forward. Raiders spotted them, shouting and firing. Ethan blocked one blast with the staff, the crystal edge absorbing part of the strike before he swung it into the shooter. Leora pressed her hands against the spire's wall, whispering rapidly in her language. The glowing lines pulsed violently, spreading like cracks across the surface. With a groan, the massive structure shuddered. "Now!" Ethan yelled. The spire collapsed in a thunderous roar, crushing the walker beneath its weight. Debris exploded into the street, scattering raiders and blocking their path. The citizens cheered, their fear turning to sudden courage. Ethan stood breathing hard, staff in hand, dust covering his face. He looked at Leora, who stared at him as if seeing something, both terrifying and magnificent. "The stories," she whispered, voice trembling. "They said humans were dangerous. Now I understand. Dangerous not because you destroy, but because you refuse to be destroyed." Ethan met her eyes, his chest still rising and falling with sharp breaths. "Remember that, Leora, and don't ever mistake kindness for weakness." Behind them, the city still burned and more raiders pressed in. But something had changed. The people were no longer running. They were looking at Ethan. They were ready to fight. The city was no longer silent. The air was thick with smoke and the cries of those caught in the chaos. Yet, amidst the fear, a new sound rose. The steady rhythm of footsteps, shouts of defiance, and the clash of makeshift weapons. Ethan stood at the edge of a broken street, his staff heavy in his hands, his eyes sharp as they scanned the battlefield. Leora was beside him, her silver eyes wide but fierce. "The people are gathering," she said softly. "They see hope now." Ethan nodded, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Hope can be dangerous if not guided. He moved toward a group of frightened citizens who held tools and farming implements, their faces pale but determined. He raised his voice. "Listen to me. You have strength, even if you don't see it. Use what you have. Fight for your homes, your families." Some looked at him with doubt, others with fear. But slowly they nodded and began to form a line. Ethan showed them how to hold their weapons, how to stand firm against the raiders. Leora watched, pride shining in her eyes. "You teach them like a true leader. Leaders learn from those they lead," Ethan replied. The raiders were regrouping, their dark armor glinting in the smoke-filled light. Their leader, a tall alien with a scarred face, raised a heavy weapon and shouted orders. They charged again, aiming to break the city's new defense. Ethan met them head-on, staff swinging in wide arcs, blocking blows and striking where he could. He moved with purpose, his body reacting faster than thought. Beside him, Leora joined the fight, wielding a crystal blade with surprising skill. Together, they pushed back the raiders, their courage growing with every step. Citizens who had hidden behind walls now fought alongside them, their voices rising in battle cries. But the raiders were many, and their machines marched forward, crushing the ground beneath them. Ethan knew their strength was not just in numbers, but in their technology. If the machines reached the city center, all would be lost. "We need to slow them down," Ethan shouted to Leora. "Is there a way to block the streets?" Leora thought, quickly. "There is the river. If we can open the gates, the water will flood the lower streets. It may stop the machines." "Then let's go," Ethan said, already moving toward the city's water control station. The path was dangerous. Raiders swarmed the streets, and Ethan fought through every step. Leora followed close, her blade flashing, protecting him from attacks. The people around them cheered, their hope renewed by the pair's bravery. At the control station, Ethan found the heavy gates that held the river back. The controls were ancient, but with Leora's knowledge and Ethan's quick hands, they worked together to open the floodgates. Water rushed through the channels, roaring as it flooded the streets below. The raiders' machines screeched, trapped and pushed back by the sudden tide. Some fell. Others were pushed onto the sides, their armor battered and broken. The citizens surged forward, taking advantage of the chaos. Ethan and Leora led the charge, striking down raiders who tried to flee. The city was fighting back, alive, with fire and hope. After hours of battle, the raiders began to retreat. Their leader shouted orders to fall back, but the damage was done. The city stood, battered but unbroken. Exhausted, Ethan leaned against a broken wall. His breath came in sharp gasps, his muscles aching. Leora stood beside him, her face pale but smiling. "You did it," she said quietly. "You saved us." Ethan shook his head. "We did it. Your people fought. They did not run." She looked at him with new respect. "I thought humans were reckless, wild. But you showed me strength I did not understand." He smiled tiredly. "Sometimes strength is quiet. Sometimes it's in standing when you want to fall." They heard footsteps behind them. A group of elders approached, their faces serious but grateful. "Human," the eldest said. "Your courage saved our city. We owe you a debt that words cannot repay." Ethan nodded. "I only did what was right." Leora stepped forward. "He is more than a guest. He is a friend, and a symbol of hope for our people." The elders exchanged looks. Finally, the eldest spoke again. "Then you shall be honored as one of us. But remember, peace must be guarded carefully. The raiders may return." Ethan met the elder's eyes. "Then we will be ready." As the sun began to rise, casting light over the damaged city, Ethan felt a new sense of purpose. This was no longer just a journey to see the stars. It was a fight to protect those who could not protect themselves. Leora smiled beside him. "You came as a stranger, but now you are part of our story." Ethan looked out over the city, the people rebuilding, the fires dying down, and the promise of a new day. "Maybe," he said quietly. "I was never meant to be just a traveler." The city was quiet now, but the air still carried the smell of smoke and dust. Ethan stood on a small hill overlooking the battlefield they had fought over the night before. The sun was higher now, casting long shadows over the broken streets and shattered machines. The people moved carefully, repairing what they could and comforting those who had lost much. Leora stood beside him, her silver eyes scanning the horizon. "They will come back," she said softly. "The raiders never forget." Ethan nodded. "And next time, we must be stronger." He had spent the night thinking, planning. He could not let this city suffer again. It was not just about fighting. It was about making sure the people could protect themselves. "What can we do?" Leora asked. "Teach," Ethan answered simply. "Train your people to fight, to defend, to stand without fear." Leora looked at him with surprise. "Can you do that?" He smiled faintly. "I learned many things in my life. Now it's time to share." The days that followed were filled with hard work. Ethan became a teacher and a leader. He showed the people how to use the tools they had as weapons, how to work together to protect their homes. Children watched with wide eyes as Ethan demonstrated ways to move quietly and strike quickly. Adults learned to build simple defenses and traps. Leora helped by translating and guiding the people, her faith in Ethan growing stronger with every lesson. The city changed. Fear began to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence. The walls no longer pulsed with warning, but with hope. One evening, as the twin suns set and painted the sky in colors of fire, Ethan sat with Leora in her home. The soft glow of the stones filled the room with warmth. "Do you regret inviting me?" Ethan asked quietly. Leora smiled gently. "No, I was afraid, yes. But I hoped for something more. You showed me that humans are not what the stories say. You are brave, patient, and kind when you choose to be." Ethan looked at her. "And you? What are you to your people?" "I am the daughter of a leader," she said softly. "But I wanted to be more than that. I wanted to see the truth beyond the walls." He nodded. "Sometimes the truth is found in places we least expect." Their moment was broken by a sudden alarm. A loud bell echoed through the city. Ethan and Leora rushed outside to see the people, gathering once more, their faces serious. "The raiders are coming again," one man said. "And this time, they bring more ships." Ethan's heart tightened. The fight was not over. It was only beginning. They hurried to the city square where the elders met. Leora spoke with them, explaining the new threat. Ethan stood beside her, ready to act. "We will not let them take our home," Ethan said firmly. "But we need a plan." Together, they organized the defenders. This time, they would not only fight, but also strike first. Ethan suggested using the city's strange technology to their advantage. "Your walls listen," he said. "Can they help us?" Leora nodded. "If I speak to them, the stones may rise to protect us." "Then do it," Ethan urged. Leora placed her hands on the wall and spoke in her ancient language. The glowing lines flared, and stones began to shift. Large blocks rose from the ground, forming barriers and traps. The city itself seemed to awaken, ready to defend. When the raiders arrived, they were met with a city transformed. Traps caught their machines, and the defenders fought with a fierce new skill. Ethan led the charge, his staff striking true, his mind sharp. Leora moved through the crowd, helping the injured and encouraging the fighters. The battle was long and brutal, but the city held. The raiders, surprised and beaten, began to retreat. Their leader, wounded and furious, swore they would return. After the fight, the people gathered around Ethan and Leora. They cheered, not just for victory, but for hope. "You have changed us," the eldest said. "Our fear is gone because of you." Ethan smiled tiredly. "The strength was always inside you. I only helped you see it." Leora looked at Ethan, with gratitude and something deeper. "You came to me as a stranger, but now you are part of our family." Ethan looked at the city he had helped save. The stars above twinkled like silent witnesses to their struggle. He knew his journey was far from over, but here, in this place of light and shadow, He had found a purpose. Maybe, he thought, I was never meant to be just a traveler. The dawn light spilled over the city, painting everything in soft gold. After the battle, the streets were quiet but filled with the signs of recovery. People worked together, cleaning debris, rebuilding walls, and helping those who were hurt. The city was alive again, stronger than before. Ethan stood on the edge of the town square, watching the scene unfold. He felt a mix of exhaustion and hope. Months ago, he had arrived as a stranger, unsure if he would be welcome. Now, he was part of something bigger, a community ready to fight for itself. Leora joined him silently, her silver eyes reflecting the morning light. "You have changed many lives here," she said softly. Ethan shook his head. "No, Leora. You changed yourself. You opened your people's hearts and minds. I just helped show what was already inside." She smiled, but then her expression grew serious. "The elders called a meeting. They want to honor you." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Me? I'm no hero." "Heroes are made from moments," Leora said, "and you were there when it mattered." Together they walked toward the council hall, a grand building made of shining stone that seemed to glow with ancient power. Inside, the elders waited, seated in a circle. Their faces were kind but full of respect. The eldest stood as Ethan entered. "Human, you carry a fire we thought was lost. Your courage and wisdom saved our city from destruction." Ethan bowed his head. "I only did what any person would do for others." The elder nodded. "That may be so, but your strength inspired many. From this day forward, you will be known as a protector of this city." Leora stepped forward. "And you will always have a place among us." Ethan's heart warmed. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly at home. After the ceremony, the elders asked him to stay, to help train the defenders and prepare for the future. Ethan agreed, knowing the fight was not over. But here, he could make a difference. Days turned into weeks. Ethan taught, guided, and became a part of the city's fabric. The people trusted him, and Leora stood by his side, their friendship growing stronger. One evening, as the twin suns set in the sky, Ethan and Leora sat together. Outside her home, the glowing walls pulsed softly around them, like a heartbeat in the quiet night. "Leora," Ethan said slowly, "when I first came here, I thought you were innocent, but now I see you are much more." She looked at him, eyes shining. "And you, Ethan, are not just a traveler. You are a hero, a friend, and a light in the darkness." He smiled, feeling a peace he had never known. "Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for showing me what it means to be human." They sat quietly, watching the stars appear one by one in the deep sky. The future was uncertain, but together, they were ready. Ethan knew he would never forget the day he accepted an invitation from an alien woman who seemed innocent, because that day changed everything, for him, for her, and for a city that learned to fight for its own freedom. And maybe, just maybe, it was the start of a new story, one where humans and aliens stood side by side, facing whatever challenges the galaxy might bring.